Do you find being a creative director fulfilling? Over the past year, I've spoken with a few creative directors who seemed stressed or dissatisfied, which has made me question whether that the path is the right fit. I've been steering my art direction and graphic design career toward purposeful, socially good work, but parts of the journey still feel unfulfilling. I'd love to hear how you see the role in that context. I've even been considering a complete pivot into physio, so I'm curious about your perspective.
Goodness. I'm going to answer this generally and target as much personal points as I can within that question. But I personally find my role very fulfilling. But that doesn't mean I don't have days where I feel like I'm going through the motions of it. And even if I'm working on a project that centers around like a socially good work, like a behavior change piece or climate action, sometimes the day is just within the day. But feeling stress or dissatisfaction in your role may come from the environment, not just necessarily the role of creative director. So that's also something to think about. And something that I've strived to do and will continue to do throughout my career is to choose workplaces and colleagues that appreciate creativity. That's like a really big important thing for me. And I think finding those ingredients within your workplace creates a fulfilling environment. Also, finding joy and nuggets of excitement, even in smaller projects, bring me great fulfillment. So any brief that comes my way, I really want to sort of treat it with love and respect. And that's something that I want to impart on every person in my team or people that I've worked with. And so even those more color by numbers brief, they deserve just the same amount of love as like the award-winning stuff too. For me, I find that putting that little bit of extra excitement into my day actually gives me an emotional connection to that work. And that also is a really lovely driver to continue to feel fulfilled within my practice. And on the flip side of that, from a client perspective, they really appreciate it when you're passionate or excited about something that may be more of like one of their basic briefs. So that there are some little things about fulfillment. As for the stress part of the question, that's very understanding. It's a very stressy and messy time in our industry at the moment. The landscape is shifting and changing every day. Mergers are happening. That's pretty fresh news. AI is evolving and shifting the way that we work and shifting the way that we want to work every day. And there's sort of this blanket of stress that I'm sort of sensing across the industry. So my piece of advice for managing that stress is really just take it day by day. Believe in the power of your own creativity, and sort of shift the focus to what's important to you. If you are a naturally creative person, you can find that passion in other fields like physio or other business practices as well. So yeah, I hopefully that sort of encompassed that larger question.
Yeah, that's great. Do you find that it's trying to align your values, as in like that's where work becomes most fulfilling, or is it creative opportunity, or what is it that drives?
I honestly think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Definitely sort of finding environments where you're aligned with the way that business operates, or you're finding people and teams of people that you feel inspired by. I think makes that's what makes work exciting. So for me, that's a massive part of why I really enjoy my work. Yeah, what was the other? And there was another part of that. It was not just the environment. It was.
You kind of talked a little bit to the creative stimulation piece, right? Like actually every brief's probably got some sort of nugget in it. And
totally. And yeah, there's going to be times where it's like, cool, it's something that it is what it is. Yeah. But I think that's not necessarily always a rush job, because then I'm sitting at my desk doing it, and I'm not feeling passionate about it either. So just because it's a slice of your life, it matters to the person who's briefed you in, it matters to that client. And a brain trick for me is offering that smaller project, or maybe some more of those color by number briefs with a bit of love, and I actually feel more emotionally invested in the work as well. So I think finding those moments brings fulfillment into the job, but when those then, like, there's always going to be something fun that comes around too, but I do think that can be maybe a niggly part of sort of in our industry. It's not always super glamorous, so I can understand how that can not always be fulfilling.
Yeah. Also, I would say there is a kind of expectation, isn't there, at the moment, that you got to be busy, you know, things aren't always going to be great. And so when you end up talking to other people, you're more likely to hear those stories than how great something is. Also, because you're kind of wary of like, oh, I don't want to make it feel like I've got the best job in the world and you haven't. And so I think people sometimes err on the kind of glass half empty, which is a tough thing when obviously you're trying to look at, was this something I want to do?
Absolutely.
Is that something you notice, Martine?
Definitely. It's interesting, this first question. What it makes me think about is actually the process of decision making.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like perhaps the person who's asked the question is sort of at some sort of juncture and of making a decision. And as a therapist and a coach, that's when people often come to see us, is at that point of, you know, do I stay in my relationship? Do I stay in my job? And often it's not the decision you make, but the process you go through in making it. That means you don't sort of wake up in 5 years' time kicking yourself going, why the hell did I do that? You know, we can't control the outcome of our decisions. Often a lot of that is way out of our, you know, control. But we can sort of go through a considered and thorough process to make sure that we're not making decisions from a place of that glass half empty or, you know, emotional reactivity or, you know, let's say you've had something really big happen in your life, like a major life event, some sort of crisis. That's often when people make big decisions that, you know, in a year or so, they end up going, oh God, why did I do that? So yeah, anyway, that's just what that question made me think of. But I'm loving your nuggets of excitement.
That's great.
Good, I'm glad.